Imagine doing 7 figures from one live event. In this video, I'm gonna be sharing a challenge that we did for a client that did $1.1 million in 3 days. And in this video, I'm gonna be sharing the structure of the challenge that we ran, the results day by day of the ads and the lead costs, and the revenue at the very end. We work with some of the biggest personal brands in the online space, running their webinars, challenges, live events, and Facebook ads. And if you're new here, we'll teach you exactly how to do the same. So what is a challenge funnel? Now, you've probably seen them before. It's basically a 3 to 5 day event where at the end of it, I think initially when they first started there was supposed to be some type of challenge at the end, right? Where at the end, you were supposed to achieve some result, like a fitness challenge or like buy your first property challenge, right? But now challenges have really just become a multiple day event. So this client ran a 3-day challenge where they basically went live for 3 days straight, plus they added VIP sessions. Now, what I want to be explaining here is kind of like the full structure of the challenge, how we pitched, how much we spent, lead costs, and everything, so you kind of get a good idea. And if you do want to run something like this will give you the baseline of what it should look like. Now, I'm not promising you that you're going to do 7 figures from a single challenge. This is not an easy feat to do, but I am going to promise you that I'll give you everything that we did so that you can go out and you can do the same. All right, so first, the structure of the challenge. So essentially, this one was a 3-day. Now, there's instances where you can do a 5-day. A lot of people actually do 5 days. I think what you need to ask yourself first is, am I capable of pitching on the webinar direct to cart in a short period of time? So if you only do a 3-day challenge, then you have to pitch basically on day 2, and that's what we'll cover here. But if you don't feel confident that you can send somebody to direct to cart to buy a $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 package, then you'll probably want to extend your challenge to about 5 days, right? So in this case, like I said, we had 3 days. So day 1, this one is basically pure value, right? So you're not pitching anything. You're really kind of like setting the expectation. I'm not going to dig super deep into each day here, but you're kind of setting the expectation, just providing some value, getting them excited for the remainder. Now, this is day 1, so they know that they have 2, 3, 4, 5 days left, depending on what you do, right? And so day 1 is structured as value. Then you do VIP. Typically, VIP is about an hour, hour and a half if you'd like. The days are usually about an hour to 2 hours, depending on how long you go, how much you want to do. I recommend keeping them around like an hour to an hour and a half. You don't want to go too much longer than that. People tend to drop off about an hour. And so day 1 is pure value, right? And so day 2 here is value plus you do what's called a breakout room, right? And so let's see, breakout. It's a terrible breakout, but you know what it means. So the way that the breakout room works is that you're kind of framing this as a benefit to them because you don't want to pitch them during the time that they paid for, right? And so all of these people paid to be here through this challenge. Now, it was only $27. It's not like a crazy amount of money, but you frame it as also in the first 5 minutes, you basically say, hey, everybody, I've had a bunch of people asking me questions on how they can actually get started or how they can do what X, Y, and Z, whatever like you service. And so at the end of this, we're actually going to be doing a private session outside of this session here where I can tell you a little bit more about what we offer. The reason we're not going to do it here is because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to pitch you guys here. If you're interested, a lot of people have been asking me, go fill out an application, right? And so the CTA here is fill out an app, right? Fill out an app. And so this is in the first 5 to 10 minutes. And so first you get this big bulk of people going to fill out this application. Now you obviously want to set up automations and everything. Someone fills it out. It sends them information about this breakout room that you're hosting. But it really, you want to make it feel like it's a benefit to them to go to the breakout session, and you don't want to pitch them during the event. Now throughout, after about 40-ish minutes, so about 40 min, you're also going to CTA again to the breakout room, right? Because what you'll end up having is some people are going to be asking a few questions about like how they can get started or how they can learn more about this, right, during the presentation. If you see one of those comments, you pause, say, guys, I keep seeing a couple comments here. You guys are asking about like how you can, do more of what we're talking about. In the beginning, if you missed it, there was an application to go join another session where I'm going to tell you more about our product. I don't want to pitch you here. Just real quick, if you guys want it, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat, right? And so you're going to CTA everybody once again, right? Now, as you get to the end, where you're at about probably like 70 to 80 minutes, you're going to hard CTA everybody to that other breakout room. Now, the key to the other breakout room here is that at the very, very, very end, you want everybody to fill out an application, but at the very, very end, you drop the link directly to the breakout room. So whether that breakout room is in Zoom or whatever it is, you drop the direct Zoom link. So as you're leaving, at the very end, you say, hey guys, I'm about to leave, so I'm gonna drop a link. This is actually gonna send you directly into the room. We'll see you there. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is that when you really think about this type of concept, you're essentially going to have a drop off from one room to the other room, right? And so sometimes it makes sense to be like, why would you send people to another room? And why wouldn't you just pitch them right then and there? But the psychology of sending people to a room to get pitched, to learn more about the product, increases your conversion rates, right? And so we're sending them to this breakout room. And so let's go through here. You've got breakout room, right? In the breakout room, this is where you spend 30 minutes to 60 minutes, literally 30 to 60 minutes, purely pitching them. This is much different than a normal webinar where you're almost kind of trying to like slide in the pitch like they don't notice, right? Or you're trying to like weave the pitch in a bit and maybe keep it like 10, 15 minutes long. Dude, these people are here to get pitched, right? And so you straight pitch them for 30 to 60 minutes and then you do Q&A, right? The longer your Q&A is, the more people will purchase from you, right? This is where you're really handling all those objections. You're answering like the most common questions that people have. You can really connect with the audience. And throughout this process here, you're gonna start seeing all of these like sales start to trickle in. Now, the key to sending them to the cart, there's a few ways that you can do this. This particular client, we sent them direct to go purchase the entire product. All right, so this client had two places we were sending people. One, we were sending them to a $3,000 product, or we were sending them to a $7,500 product, right? And on the page, we basically let them choose whichever one that they wanted. This one obviously included more bonuses, included a bunch of extras and stuff. And this one was like his standard coaching product. So method one is just sending them direct to purchase the entire thing. Now, in particular, this client is really good at like pitching and selling directly on webinars. So we decided that it was better to just send them direct to cart. Most of the time, people have a tough time selling anything that's over like $3 or $4 grand. Like we're selling $7,500 direct to cart and we did over $1 million. People are just buying and buying and buying and buying on this thing, right? The other option, if you don't want them to do direct, is you can actually send them to a deposit where they put like $997 down, right? So this is just to save their spot. They can put $997 down, they can save their spot. And on the next page here is the remainder of it. So let's say you were doing just like this $7,500 product. On the next page, be $6,500 that they could fill out. Now, if they don't happen to fill this out, then you can then call everybody who wants a deposit, right? And so this is a really good way of getting more people to put a deposit and then having your sales team reach out and convert those people later if they don't happen to actually finish the entire payment. In our case, we ended up doing this. We prefer to do that in the situation that we have with how good the client is, and also not a big fan of a sales team. They don't do a good job. So this was a better option for us to do on the breakout session. Now, within this breakout session, after it's over, this is when you do your VIP. Now, the cool thing about after the breakout session doing VIP is like now you have an entire opportunity to sell all of these people again, right? They've just came off the breakout session. Some of them purchased, some of them haven't bought. They still have questions. Remember, VIP is purely Q&A. So they're coming on and asking questions about the actual program, right? They're asking questions about how they can start it or, you know, what's inside of it or whatever objection that they have. They're coming to VIP asking. Now, the people on VIP, remember, they paid to actually be on VIP. So they're an upsell from the initial $27. So the $27 plus an additional $47. So these are your highest quality buyers. And by having an extra hour with them, you're eventually going to upsell a lot of them right there, right? As you get to day three is value plus pitch. So you've already pitched everybody in the breakout session. And so there's, of course, you want to add value on day three, and then you're going to re-pitch everybody a second time, except you're not taking them outside. You're doing it right during the session. So you can have about 45-ish minutes of value, and then you're gonna say, hey, everybody, those of you who didn't go into our breakout room, I wanna share the offer that we made for everybody so you guys have an opportunity to get it as well. And here, you're gonna do the pitch. Now, you can let this go on as long as possible. I'm always a big fan of doing a bunch of Q&A after you pitch because that's where people actually purchase. And so you can do this for an hour and a half, 2 hours if you want to. Just keep in mind that after this, you're also going to do VIP, right? So you don't want to make this too long, but if sales are coming in, you're seeing the revenue, I'd stay on as long as possible, right? All right, so just to recap on the structure here, you've got day 1 plus VIP. Then you've got day 2 breakout, and then VIP. Then you've got day 3, which includes pitch to VIP. Now, this is the exact challenge structure that we use to do 1.1 million. Now, next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the actual results. You can kind of see how much we spent, what the cost per lead was, what the kind of structure is, the amount of people that come in on like a daily basis for these types of things, and then of course the results at the very end, so you can see how much we made. Now let's take a look at the results and everything that came with the challenge. All right, so as you can see right here, we spent $167,000. Now, the cool thing about doing paid events is that you get to cover some of your ad spend. Now, it's not likely that you typically will cover all of it. Like, obviously, the big goal and dream is like to cover all your ad spend and everything is free. It just doesn't happen that often. But if it does, congratulations, that's badass, right? But in this case, we spent $60,000. We got $60,000 back, so we spent about $107,000 in net spend. And you can see in the beginning, 0.36, and we had a 37.8% upgrade rate, which is a really, really high upgrade rate. We're usually seeing about 25 to 30%. So this was really good. We got extra VIP that gives us extra revenue, right? And so here is the actual like structure of the entire challenge. So as you can see, we went all the way from here to here, $167,000. And this is what, 14 days of ads. And so day 1, we started off really small. I'm guessing what this was that the ads just didn't get approved in time, and that's why it was only $800. But 9 tickets, $96. Now, the thing about ads sometimes is that your very first customers are going to be your hottest customers, and a lot of times they're going to be people that are already engaged with your page, and Facebook is going to gravitate towards them. So you're going to get like this low cost per lead or cost per purchase in the beginning, right? And then as your ads pick up, as you spend more money, as you scale them, that's where 2 things happen. 1, you get into colder audiences, and 2, what you're gonna do is kind of tweak your ads out if you're gonna be adding too much budget too fast, but in a finite amount of time, sometimes that's just a necessity and you have to do it, right? And so as you can see here, day 1, we ended up spending, this is full day 1 is a $6,000, 47 tickets, $126 per ticket, which is a great cost for this 3-day event, right? Then we bumped it up to 7, so you can see how aggressive that kind of like bump is. And so then you can see how like the change in cost is. You go from $7,000 spend, $142, from $6,000 spend to $126. And so it starts to kind of gradually increase, because when you're doing something in such a short amount of time, like this is 14 days, this is 2 weeks, right? And so we had to spend $167,000. I honestly wanted to spend like $250, but it just didn't feel right halfway through. The cost got a little bit too expensive here. But you have to scale it pretty aggressively. And so you really don't have time to wait 2-3 days to like tweak and little optimizations in your ad. You just don't really have to, right? And so, or you don't have that time. And so you can see right here, so a bump here all the way to almost 10 grand. And our cost actually went down this day. And then 10,000, you can see it went back up to 172. And then this is where it got kind of like sketchy. And so in this middle period, I've seen this across a couple different challenges where you get to about a week out, and I am not sure why this happens, but it might be a psychological thing that it's like within a week, it's not enough time for them to like feel like they're rushed into the decision, but it's not far enough out to where they feel like they can just buy it and they'll plan it later, right? And so 14,000 in spend suddenly jumped up to $222 cost per ticket. Way too high for this. Like we could be, but we're gonna eat into ROAS a lot. $200 cost per ticket is a lot for like a $27 ticket. We honestly wanna be like 200 and below. $19 in spend, but again, remember, like we can't necessarily slow down, right? Like we can't start pulling back the spend because we have to hit these goals. We don't have an infinite amount of time. We're not running a VSL that can just continuously run 24/7, 12 months out of the year. Like this thing has to happen on a specific date. And so we have to keep cranking it up. You can see we pushed it to $20,000 here, and 214 wasn't bad. And here is where I started to see that our cost was getting way out of control. And so this day is when I actually pulled the spend back during the day and tried to get this thing kind of balanced back out. And so $15,000 in spend, we started coming down at 229. And then this is kind of like that final sprint. When you're in like the last 3 to 4 days is when you can comfortably put more revenue in, or excuse me, more spend in, and you can get more ticket sales without your inflation of costs going up too high, because this is like the very end. This is where you start to put in your like last chance images, your last chance videos, where it's like, hey, it's a last chance, it's starting on Monday, right? Or hey, it's last chance starting on Tuesday, right? And so this is like kind of the last chance sprint. You see $182. And the crazy thing is we spent 15,000 here with 68. We spent 12,000 with 68 as well, right? And so it's a combination of getting close to it. And then also we've obviously been optimizing specific campaigns throughout this period. And so you're able to optimize the ones, and some of those are getting better costs, but as you're scaling others, those are the ones that are kind of inflating that cost a little bit, right? 16,000 in spend, so we tried to push it back up. $82, $200 cost. 17,000 in spend. This is the day before the challenge itself. 99 tickets sold, $172 cost. And then the reason why this one isn't at like a $25,000 in spend is because it's basically like a half day of spend, right? The challenge basically happens, and you can see 113 tickets at $120 cost, right? And so what you're going to want to do is really get these to the point where you're structuring them so that you can spend the bulk of your money towards the end of it. Hard part about this is that throughout the entire process is you do have to spend enough to get your account spending at the level that you need to when you get to the end. And so as you can see, we're at 14,000, 19,000. Like if this 19 right here on this day would have taken really well, or I guess this day, right? Because the 19 carried into this day. If this would have continued to take well around like that $200, I almost guarantee it would have been around $250,000 to $300,000 in spend, and it just did not take well. So you have to be really careful when you're scaling, and there's this really clean balance of like scaling, but also watching that cost so you don't just like blow through all your spend. Because right here, we basically saved our asses, right? So we went from like on average, let's see, what are these? On average between all of these, we were at a 221, and these last 2 days right here brought in over 200 leads at an average of 146, right? So that's a big change being at the very, very, very end, okay? And so this is kind of the daily breakdown of how we were scaling the ads on this. Now, results-wise, one of the things that I really like about doing paid events is that you're going to get a really high attendance rate in comparison to something free. Like we've done free events where we're getting it up close to like 40, 45%, but that's a lot of organic traffic. It's not just usually purely paid. Like you're typically going to be around 20, sometimes 30% at like the top, right? And so with these, you get a 62%, 57%, and then by day 3, 49. That's not too big of a drop off, to be honest. Getting to day 3, like that's like a nice drop. It's a very comfortable drop. What you don't want to see is 62 and then like a 32, right? Now, if you were to do 5 days, keep in mind that this will continue to drop, and you're going to end up probably at like a 30, right? 32 if you had this kind of drop, right? And so keep that in mind when you're deciding between 3 and 5 days, you will have a drop, right? And so down here in terms of revenue, you can see that we did $862,000 from the ads themselves. We do have a little bit of NA, which basically most of this was paid ads. And so paid ads, in what we do, we typically have the page, and then there's a UTM for organic. And so my guess is that a lot of these NAs came from paid, but we didn't have like the UTM. It might have fallen off, right? And so you can see that we did 5.4x ROAS on just the paid ads in general. And if you add everything together here with 173 from organic, and then the not attributed right here with 105,000, let's just say half of it is from paid, half of it is from organic, you're still looking at like a 6 point something, right? But overall, the event did a 7.2 if you add in organic at $1.14 million, right? So very successful event. This one worked really well, but this doesn't mean that it's going to work immediately for you either. So a few things that you really want to pay attention to is, one, what are you capable of doing on the event itself? Are you able to sell them direct? Do you still need your sales team? Like those are really, really important. The second thing is you want to decide whether you want to do it free or paid, right? And so if you're selling something direct to cart, I do recommend doing paid because you typically get a higher quality lead. If you're doing free, you're going to get somebody who a lot of times are coming for free information. They're a lot of times a little bit more unqualified in bulk, right? So you'll still get the qualified people, just to be clear, but you can sometimes get a lot more unqualified people because it's just free. There's not a paywall, right? A paywall is somebody that has to pay to get over the wall into the event itself. And so paying people pay attention, right? And they typically upsell and buy at a higher rate, right? So a few things that you want to make sure you do. And one of the tough things about challenges is just the setup. And if you're doing this yourself, the other thing you have to keep in mind is like this is not an easy task. There are 3 different days or 5 different days, 5 different days of emails, 5 different days of SMS, 5 different days of potentially fucking up. Like it is a tough thing to actually orchestrate on your own. So I'd recommend you have a team, or you keep really low budget, really low spend, maybe have a small challenge just to test it out. But these definitely are not easy. But if you can crack them, you can make a lot of money doing them the right way. So if you enjoyed this video, I would love to hear your thoughts. Would love to hear if you've tried a challenge before, if you've had success, not had success, and if you're going to try one yourself. All right, we'll see you soon. Bye.